First contact folly. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Federation gleamed under the light of 3 artificial suns, its crystalline dome refracting prismatic patterns across the assembled delegates. Species from 1,000 worlds filled the tiered seating, their murmurs creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and harmonic vibrations. At the center of the chamber stood High Chancellor Orixis, his 4 arms raised for silence. Esteemed colleagues, Orixis began, his translator implant converting his native speech into the standardized galactic tongue. We gather today to discuss a matter of significant importance. Our long-range survey vessels have discovered a civilization on the outer rim of the Orion Arm. Initial observations suggest this species has achieved rudimentary interplanetary travel, but remains confined to their solar system. The chamber's central hologram illuminated, displaying a small blue-green planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. They call themselves humans, continued Orixis, and their homeworld Earth. Standard protocol dictates observation for another century before considering contact. From the diplomatic section rose a slender figure with iridescent scales and large compound eyes. Senior diplomatic envoy Zarath of the Nexari Collective moved gracefully to the speaking platform. Chancellor, honored representatives, she began, her voice melodic but firm. I must urge caution regarding this species. My research division has conducted extensive analysis of their communication broadcasts and historical records. Humans display patterns that fall outside our standard assessment matrices. Admiral Krex of the Federation Defense Force scoffed audibly, his armored exoskeleton clattering as he shifted in his seat. Another primitive species with rocks and primitive chemical propellants. What could possibly warrant special consideration? Zareth's compound eyes flashed with an intensity rarely seen in the measured diplomat. These humans are unique, Admiral. Despite their technological limitations, they exhibit remarkable adaptability. They've survived multiple near-extinction events through their history, their conflicts, and they engage in many. Drive rapid technological advancement. Where most species develop technology steadily over millennia, humans have progressed from atmospheric flight to rudimentary space travel in less than a single century. She gestured to the hologram, which shifted to display various human activities: warfare, scientific endeavors, artistic creations. Most concerning is their response to threats. When faced with existential danger, humans demonstrate unprecedented unification and resource mobilization. Their fiction repeatedly imagines scenarios where they defeat vastly superior alien forces. They don't just contemplate victory against advanced civilizations. They expect it. Admiral Krex rose to his full 3-meter height, mandibles clicking in irritation. This sounds like xenophilic romanticism, not strategic assessment. I've reviewed the preliminary reports. Their most advanced weapons used chemical propellants and crude nuclear fission. Their ships lack proper shielding. They can barely reach their planetary satellite. The Admiral gestured dismissively. I propose we accelerate the integration schedule. A small show of force, perhaps neutralizing one of their orbital platforms, would ensure compliance without unnecessary delay. Murmurs rippled through the chamber as representatives debated among themselves. Zarath's scales shifted to a deep indigo, signaling distress in her species. Chancellor, please. The danger isn't in their current capabilities, but in how they would respond to aggression. Their historical records show they advance most rapidly during conflicts. If threatened, they would devote their entire civilization to defense. My simulations suggest. Your simulations are based on broadcasts designed for entertainment, interrupted Krex. Reality will prove different. One demonstration of our capabilities, and they will understand the futility of resistance. Chancellor Orixis considered both arguments, his secondary eyes blinking thoughtfully. The Federation has successfully integrated 342 species using standard protocols. While Envoy Zarath's concerns are noted, our experience suggests Admiral Krex's approach will yield the most efficient results. Zarath's scales paled. Chancellor, at least allow me to establish diplomatic channels first. Let us approach with communication, not intimidation. A compromise. Then, Oryxis declared, Admiral Krex will prepare a demonstration of our technological superiority, but will delay implementation for 30 rotations while Envoy Zarath attempts diplomatic contact. As the council adjourned, Zarath approached Admiral Krex, her voice lowered. You don't understand what you're provoking, Admiral. These humans, they're different. Krex's mandibles clicked in what translated as amusement. All species believe themselves exceptional until they glimpse the true scale of galactic civilization. These humans will be no different. Zarath shook her head. For everyone's sake, I hope you're right. On Earth, Dr. Eleanor Chen stared at her computer screen in the basement of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, her coffee long forgotten. The data couldn't be right. She ran the analysis again, heart pounding. Marcus, she called to her colleague, can you verify these readings from the Deep Space Array? Dr. Marcus Wilson leaned over her shoulder, his brow furrowing. That can't be right. Something that size shouldn't be moving at that velocity. It's not just one object, Eleanor said, pointing to additional data points. It's a formation, and they're decelerating. Within hours, observatories worldwide confirmed the readings. Within days, the objects resolved into distinct shapes as they entered the outer solar system. They were unmistakably artificial, massive constructs of unknown materials and design, moving with precision that defied natural physics. The revelation of alien vessels approaching Earth triggered the expected initial panic, but something remarkable happened in the days that followed. Humanity, faced with the ultimate other, began to see itself as a single entity for perhaps the first time in its tumultuous history. Nations that had been enemies for generations established emergency coordination protocols. Scientific data flowed freely across borders. Military forces around the world elevated alert levels, but maintained discipline and coordination through hastily established joint command structures. Admiral Wei Zong of the Chinese Space Force found himself in the unprecedented position of coordinating strategy with his American, Russian, and European counterparts. If they wanted to destroy us, he noted during a global security conference, they could have done so from beyond our detection range. The fact that they're approaching openly suggests either peaceful intentions or a desire to communicate their superiority. General Diana Rodriguez of the U.S. Space Command nodded. Either way, we prepare for all contingencies. Every satellite with imaging capability is being redirected. We're accelerating deployment of the orbital defense prototypes. In laboratories and factories worldwide, engineers and scientists worked around the clock. Projects that had been theoretical were fast-tracked into production. Defensive systems that had been designed to protect against terrestrial threats were hastily reconfigured for potential extraterrestrial ones. When the alien vessels established orbit around Earth exactly 30 days after their detection, humanity was far from ready, but they weren't helpless either. Aboard the Federation command vessel Inevitable Dominance, Admiral Krex reviewed the final preparations for what he considered a routine compliance operation. The diplomatic approach has failed, he noted with satisfaction. As expected, the primitives lack the conceptual framework to comprehend our communication attempts. Zarath's holographic form shimmered with agitation. They haven't failed to comprehend, Admiral. They're still analyzing our messages, developing translation matrices. Their response patterns show they're attempting genuine communication. 30 rotations have passed, Krex replied dismissively. The Council's decision stands. We proceed with the demonstration. He turned to his tactical officer. Target one of their larger orbital constructs, something significant enough to demonstrate our superiority, but not critical to their planetary functions. The tactical officer identified the International Space Station as meeting these criteria, and Krex approved with casual indifference. The weapons officer calibrated a precision beam that would neatly sever the station's main truss, leaving the habitation modules intact but demonstrating the precision and power of Federation technology. Commencement in 30 seconds, announced the tactical officer. Zarat's hologram flickered more intensely. "Admiral, I implore you to reconsider. My analysis suggests." "Your analysis is noted and overruled, Envoy," Krex interrupted. "Proceed with the demonstration." The inevitable dominance discharged a brilliant beam of coherent energy toward the space station. What happened next would forever change the Federation's understanding of humanity. Milliseconds before impact, a previously undetected defensive system activated. A network of satellites that Federation sensors had categorized as primitive communication relays suddenly generated an energy field that diffracted the weapon's beam, significantly reducing its power. Though the station suffered damage, it was far from the decisive demonstration Krex had planned. More shocking was what followed. Within minutes, multiple launch signatures appeared across Earth's surface. Primitive chemical rockets, yes, but far more of them than Federation intelligence had identified, and deployed with coordinated precision that suggested long preparation. "Impossible," Krex muttered as the tactical display updated. "They couldn't have known we were coming. They couldn't have prepared." But the evidence was undeniable. Humanity had not only anticipated potential hostility, but had prepared accordingly. The rockets weren't aimed directly at the Federation vessels, an attack that would have been futile, but rather deployed to form a complex defense grid around their planet. And then came the real surprise. From a hidden lunar base, a facility the Federation scouts had somehow missed entirely, emerged vessels unlike anything else in Earth's known arsenal. They were clearly experimental, utilizing propulsion systems that Federation sensors couldn't immediately categorize. "Admiral," the sensor officer reported, voice tight with concern, "we're detecting energy signatures similar to our own quantum displacement technology. But that's not possible. They're centuries away from such developments." As the human counterattack unfolded with unexpected sophistication, Zarat's hologram regarded Krex with what translated as profound sadness. "I warned you, Admiral. When threatened, they unite. When challenged, they innovate. You didn't just awaken a primitive species to the reality of galactic civilization. You awakened a sleeping predator." The first missiles reached the Federation fleet, detonating not with crude nuclear explosions, but with precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses that temporarily disrupted Federation shielding systems. It wasn't enough to truly threaten the advanced vessels, but it was enough to demonstrate a level of understanding and adaptability that should have been impossible. As Krex ordered a tactical retreat to regroup, he faced an uncomfortable realization. The easy subjugation he had promised the Council would not be forthcoming. These humans were indeed different, and the Federation had made a grave miscalculation. The first battle for Earth had ended, not with the expected demonstration of Federation power, but with a demonstration of humanity's refusal to be intimidated. And it was only the beginning. The reckoning. The emergency session of the Galactic Federation Council vibrated with tension. Representatives from member species crowded the chamber, their usual decorum replaced by anxious murmuring. At the center, Admiral Krex stood rigid, his exoskeleton bearing fresh repair marks, visible evidence of the unexpected engagement with Earth's defenders. "Explain yourself, Admiral," demanded Chancellor Orixis, all four arms gesturing in agitation. "You assured the Council that this primitive species would submit after a simple demonstration." Krex's mandibles clicked in what his species recognized as profound discomfort. The humans possess capabilities our intelligence failed to detect. They had prepared defensive measures specifically designed to counter our technology. "Impossible," declared the Technary representative, her crystalline form pulsing with skepticism. "No pre-integration species has ever anticipated Federation technology accurately enough to develop countermeasures." Senior diplomatic envoy Zarat stepped forward, her scales now a deep, resonant blue. "With respect, that is precisely what I attempted to explain. Humans possess an unusual capacity for technological innovation driven by perceived threats. Their entertainment transmissions, which we dismissed as mere fantasy, were actually thought experiments for potential extraterrestrial encounters." She activated a holographic display, showing human scientific papers, military strategizing, and fictional accounts of alien invasions. They've been preparing for this possibility for over a century, not in unified, directed effort, but through millions of individual speculations that created a cultural readiness we've never encountered before. Chancellor Oryx's primary eyes narrowed. You suggest they somehow knew we were coming? No, Zorath replied. I suggest they considered it inevitable that someone would come, and they've been planning accordingly since they first conceived of extraterrestrial intelligence. The council chamber erupted in overlapping debates. Such behavior defied all established patterns of species development. Pre-integration civilizations typically focused on internal conflicts and immediate environmental challenges, not hypothetical external threats. Admiral Krex recovered some of his composure. Regardless of how they prepared, their technology remains fundamentally inferior. The initial engagement was merely surprising, not threatening. I propose a more substantial demonstration, not against their orbital constructs, but against an uninhabited region of their planet. Zareth's scales flashed warning patterns. Escalation would be catastrophic, Admiral. My analysis of human historical patterns suggests they will respond to greater threats with proportionately greater mobilization. You witnessed merely their first response capabilities, not their true potential when fully committed to conflict. The debate might have continued indefinitely, if not for an unexpected development. The Federation's long-range sensors detected multiple launches from Earth, far more sophisticated than anything they had previously observed. In the hardened bunker beneath Cheyenne Mountain, the Joint Earth Defense Command operated with grim efficiency. Representatives from every major military power coordinated humanity's response to the alien aggression. General Diana Rodriguez reviewed the deployment status of the HFY network, the hardened electromagnetic launch and interception orbital system that had been secretly developed over the previous decade as a theoretical defense against precisely this scenario. HFY's units 1 through 24 are in position, reported Colonel Takashi Yamamoto. Quantum resonance scanning is operational. We're tracking all 7 alien vessels with 98% accuracy. Dr. Eleanor Chen, hastily recruited from JPL to the military response team, analyzed incoming data from the alien ships. Their technology operates on principles we've theorized but never implemented, manipulating space-time at quantum levels for propulsion and energy generation. But now that we can observe it in action, we can adapt. Admiral Weizhong nodded approvingly. The reverse engineering teams in Shenzhen and Cambridge have already synthesized their shield frequency patterns. The next generation of countermeasures will be significantly more effective. What the Federation failed to understand about humanity was not just their technological ingenuity, but their unique social adaptation to crisis. Bureaucracies that normally moved with glacial slowness now operated with decisive speed. Corporate competitors freely shared proprietary technologies. Scientists who had spent careers as rivals now collaborated with seamless efficiency. Humanity had become, in effect, a single organism focused on survival, precisely as Zorath had warned. Deploy the ODIN platforms, ordered General Rodriguez. Limited engagement protocol. Target their sensor arrays only. The Orbital Defense Initiative Network represented humanity's first purpose-built weapons designed for space warfare. Deployed from hidden silos across Earth, the ODIN platforms used a combination of conventional explosives, directed energy, and most surprisingly to the Federation observers, crude but effective quantum disruption technology reverse-engineered from observations of the alien vessel's own systems. Aboard the inevitable Dominance, alarms blared as Federation sensors detected the approaching human weapons. Impossible, muttered Admiral Krex for the second time in as many days. They couldn't have developed quantum disruption technology so quickly. Zareth's hologram appeared on the command deck, her expression severe. They didn't develop it, Admiral. They observed our systems during your demonstration and adapted existing theoretical frameworks to create countermeasures. This is precisely what makes humans dangerous. They learn from every encounter. The Federation vessels easily intercepted most of the incoming weapons with their superior defensive systems. But the humans had anticipated this, and the attacks were merely a diversion. While the Federation's automated defenses focused on the obvious threats, smaller, stealthier weapons approached from multiple vectors. When they detonated, they didn't attempt to breach the Federation's superior hull materials. Instead, they created precisely calibrated interference patterns that temporarily blinded the alien vessel's sensor systems. In the momentary blindness, human vessels, converted from orbital construction platforms and hurriedly outfitted with weapons, moved into positions that would have been suicidal had the Federation ships been at full capability. "We've lost tracking on 70% of their orbital assets," reported the sensor officer, mandibles clicking in distress. Admiral Krex's exoskeleton creaked as he shifted uncomfortably. What had begun as a routine integration operation was rapidly evolving into something unprecedented in Federation history. A pre-integration species not only resisting effectively, but actually forcing the Federation into defensive posture. "Enough of this," Krex declared. "Prepare the gravitic compressors. We'll demonstrate our true capabilities." Zareth's hologram flickered with alarm. "Admiral, gravitic compression against an inhabited world violates 17 Federation protocols. You would kill millions. I will target an uninhabited region," Krex replied coldly. "The demonstration will end this resistance without excessive casualties." But before the order could be implemented, a new communication signal penetrated the Federation's systems. A direct transmission from Earth using protocols that mimicked the Federation's own. On the command deck's main display appeared a human female in a formal military uniform adorned with symbols of authority. Behind her stood representatives of various Earth nations, presenting a unified front. "I am General Diana Rodriguez of Earth's Joint Defense Command," she began, her words perfectly translated into standard Federation communication protocols. "Your unprovoked attack against our space station has been interpreted as an act of war. However, we remain open to diplomatic resolution before further escalation becomes necessary." Admiral Krex stared in disbelief. Not only had the humans matched Federation communication protocols, but they had also penetrated the command vessel's security systems to establish direct contact, a technological feat that should have been centuries beyond their capabilities. Zareth's hologram moved forward. "Admiral, allow me to respond. This is precisely the opening we need for diplomatic engagement." After a moment's hesitation, Krex nodded. The situation had evolved beyond his experience, and for all his pride, he recognized when specialized expertise was required. Zareth addressed the human delegation with careful respect. "I am Senior Diplomatic Envoy Zareth of the Galactic Federation. The incident with your space station was intended as a demonstration, not an act of war. We seek peaceful integration of Earth into the greater galactic community." General Rodriguez's expression remained impassive. "Your definition of peaceful differs significantly from ours, Envoy Zareth. On Earth, we do not introduce ourselves by damaging our neighbor's property." A ripple of what might have been amusement passed through the human delegation behind her. "However," Rodriguez continued, "we are prepared to discuss terms, provided all Federation vessels withdraw to a minimum distance of 500,000 kilometers from Earth while negotiations proceed." Admiral Krex bristled at what he perceived as a demand from inferiors, but Zareth quickly intervened before he could respond. "We accept these terms as a gesture of good faith. Admiral Krex will withdraw the fleet immediately." After the transmission ended, Krex rounded on the diplomat. "You overstep your authority, Envoy. The defense fleet does not take orders from the diplomatic corps." Zareth's scales rippled with intensity. "Admiral, observe your tactical displays. While we were communicating, the humans positioned their remaining orbital platforms in a formation that could severely damage our vessels if hostilities resume. They're not demanding our withdrawal because they fear us. They're offering us a graceful exit before they demonstrate just how much of our technology they've already adapted." Krex turned to his tactical officer, who reluctantly confirmed Zareth's assessment. Somehow, in the span of mere days, humanity had reverse-engineered enough Federation technology to pose a genuine threat to the galaxy's most advanced military force. As the Federation fleet began its withdrawal to the agreed-upon distance, Chancellor Orixis contacted the inevitable dominants. Admiral Krex, Envoy Zarath. The Chancellor began, his tone grave. The Council has reviewed the situation and reached a unanimous decision. The standard integration protocols are hereby suspended for Earth. We will establish diplomatic relations as equals, not as patrons. Zarath's scales flushed with vindication, but she maintained diplomatic reserve. A wise decision, Chancellor. These humans would never accept subordinate status. Their potential as allies, however, is considerable. Krex remained silent, his mandibles tight against his face in what his species recognized as profound discomfort. In all his centuries of service to the Federation, no species had ever forced such a concession. As the Federation vessels maintained their new position, observation sensors continued to monitor Earth. What they witnessed was remarkable. Continued acceleration of technological development, rapid adaptation of observed alien principles, and global cooperation unlike anything in the Federation's extensive records of species development. In the privacy of his quarters, Admiral Krex reviewed the sensor data with growing concern. They learned too quickly, he murmured to himself. At this rate, they'll match our technology within decades, not centuries. When Zarath's hologram appeared for their scheduled briefing, Krex surprised her with an unexpected question. You predicted this outcome, Envoy. What happens next? Will they become the allies you envision, or something else entirely? Zarath considered the question carefully. Humanity's defining characteristic isn't their adaptability or even their surprising unity in crisis. It's their imagination, their ability to conceive of possibilities beyond their immediate experience. They imagined us before they knew we existed. They prepared for conflict they couldn't confirm would come. Her scales shifted to a thoughtful shade of blue. That same imagination allows them to envision cooperation, Admiral. They can conceive of a galaxy where diverse species work together despite their differences. If we approach them with genuine respect rather than patronizing integration, they may become the Federation's greatest success story. Krex's mandibles clicked softly. And if you're wrong, if their rapid advancement continues unchecked. Zarath's compound eyes fixed on the Admiral with unsettling intensity. Then the Federation will have to adapt as quickly as the humans do, or face the possibility that in our arrogance, we awaken not just a new member of the galactic community, but its future leaders. As diplomatic preparations began in earnest, Federation scientists continued their observation of Earth with growing amazement and trepidation. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, and instead of collapsing, they had evolved. The species that had been dismissed as primitive now stood at the threshold of a technological revolution catalyzed by their brief encounter with the stars. The Galactic Federation had existed for millennia, integrating hundreds of species under its benevolent guidance. But as the diplomatic corps prepared for humanity's formal introduction to galactic society, one thing became increasingly clear. This encounter would change not just Earth, but the Federation itself. Humanity was coming to the stars, not as supplicants grateful for admission to galactic civilization, but as equals who had earned their place through defiance of expectations and refusal to submit. The galaxy would never be the same again.